Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Alejandro Rondon. I'm a pre-sales engineer for Centreon, and today I want to discuss about some basic concepts on Centreon. Because I know that with all of these acronyms, BAM, MBI, ACLs, CMA, and all the different concepts that sometimes are kind of a little bit confusing, such as templates, connectors, plugins. Having a normal conversation in Centreon can be sometimes even overwhelming, even for the most experienced engineers out there. So for that, we decided to create this video. This video is not going to be a technical deep dive of everything that is going to be presented today. It's just going to be a quick view of the concept, so you have a better idea what you want to do. If you want to see more deep dive, well, I welcome you to see more videos done by either me or my colleagues, that you can actually see a more detailed views, all the concepts that we're discussing here today. So without further ado, let's start our video. So for the first part, I want to give you some concept of monitoring, basic concepts. So let's say that you start with a server that you want to monitor. So how you're going to connect to this server is via the plugins. The plugins are programs that are going to be executed by the Centreon engine, and they're going to allow us to retrieve information from different host or different service. They can give you some different views, such as, for example, or different service that you might have, CPU, disk, etc. And they are part of the open core of Centreon. That means if you download and you use today's Centreon open source edition, you will have access to this. So actually this will be the basics of your monitoring experience. But in order to use those plugins, you need something more. So that's what we're going to explain next. So first, you will have host templates and service templates. Beginning, let's start defining what are the hosts and the services. So the host is anything that you want to monitor that has an IP. So this can be a server, a VM machine, a container, or an IoT device, lights, cameras, thermometers, etc. Anything that you want to monitor that has an IP. And on the other side, you have services. That services are what you are going to measure on those hosts. So for example, let's say the CPU or the memory or the drives or the interfaces, etc. that you can have in different type of hosts and devices. Of course, those services can include some metrics. So for example, let's say that we're going to use the CPU. We can retrieve metrics such as usage, percent of usage, speed, etc. All those information that you can retrieve from the CPU service. And then what we have here as templates. Well, the templates are simply just a group of configurations and standards for each kind of host and service that are going to include the commands. That actually the commands are the ones to execute the plugins. So you can have the commands with different macros or variables that you can use. So you can monitor whatever you want in whatever system that you may want. So all of this information is what is called the connectors. So whenever, for example, you hear that Centreon offers more than 700 connectors for different services and hosts, it's this that we're providing. And something else about connectors is that when you can add discovery rules, so the self-auto-discovery engine in Centreon can actually use these connectors, use these rules to discover other hosts and services that you might have in your network without having to configure them each by one. So that's are the basics in the monitoring that we might have. So now that you have the monitoring, let's see how metrics we have from them. So first, let's say that you have your system that is running perfectly, is running smoothly until we have an incident. So a critical state is detected, is on hard. Remember, we have two types of status, hard and soft. The hard, let's say, are the confirmed ones that are actually after a series of repeats. So once it's confirmed that we have an incident, that we have a status of critical either in a host or in a service, we go to a down duration. So of course this will last until we fix the incident, everything comes back to normal. So we have an up duration, because either we got an OK message or an OK status or a warning status, meaning that the service is already up, or the service or the host. So that time between the incident starts and the incident ends is what we call, well, in average, what we call the mean time to restore service. And then it will happen that we have another incident and we go again into a down duration with the critical status. So that time between the incident end and another incident starts is what we call the mean time between failures. And the sum of both of them is what we call the mean time between service incidents. So of course, if you want to have the most stable service or applications that you're running, you want your mean time between service incident and between failures to be as big as possible, and the time to restore to service as low as possible. So those are kind of informations that you might want, metrics that you might want to have a knowledge. So after we have the metrics, actually let's just discuss a little bit more about the architecture basics in Centreon, because of course we have to use those metrics, we have to retrieve those metrics somewhere. So at the core of the Centreon, you have the central server. This will be the server that is going to execute, is going to retrieve all the data, it's going to manage, it's going to create notifications, it's going to analyze the data, etc. All of this is done into the central server. You have all the configuration here. You may have, because you might require either by your network, that you have a remote network that is private, or because you have given this to another profile outside of your company, a partner or a client, you may have what is called the Centreon remote server, which is a small central server that is going to be associated with the central server with their license, and is just going to show their perimeter. And how these two servers get some metrics is via the pollers. So pollers can be a physical machine, an independent machine, or it can be, the role can be part of the central server or the remote server. That is just the one that is going to execute those commands, those plugins that we saw earlier, and they're gonna get the measurements on the different metrics of the different hosts and services that we're running, and that we can have them here. This is what we call agentless monitoring. Means that we don't have to install anything in the device that we want to monitor. If you want, you can have an agent monitoring with example CMA, which is the Centreon monitoring agent. It's a monitoring agent based on the OpenTelemetry standard, and it can be installed either in Linux or Windows, and it can perform more advanced tests. So for example, some advanced scripts and more information that we want to retrieve from this case. Of course, he's going to push that information into a central server. Based on the OpenTelemetry standard, for the moment it's only sending metrics, but in the future, since we want to become a full observability solution in Centreon, it's also planned to send logs and metrics and stats and traces and everything. So with that, we have all our measurements. So now what we can do with those measurements. So the first one is the map server. Map server is not an acronym, it's just the map, because this is the server that is going to be creating all the visualizations for our end users. So it can be our business directors or some other teams that want to have a more graphical view of the data represented in, let's say, a map or a geographical map or a logical map. So this server is the one that is going to do this for them. Another type of server that you may have is the MBI server, which is the Monitoring Business Intelligence server. And this one is just going to create reports based on your SLAs, on your availabilities, on your incidents, etc. And it will send them regular for you, in your cases, to anyone that wants to receive them or has the right to receive them. So this is the view. And as I said earlier, we also have some modules or some examples that are directed to business director, not necessarily IT technicians. So for example, one of them is the business activity monitoring, or BAM, which is basically how we can represent different indicators and KPIs from different sites into one logical view. So in this example, we have a supermarket in fields that have stores in 2 countries, Belgium and France, and in those countries they have stores in different cities. So for example, in France we have Lille, Douai, Dunkerque. In Belgium we have Brussels, etc. And those divisions, those stores, each one of them, they have some services running. Some, of course, they have some servers, they have some vending machines, cameras, etc., etc. So all of this is a basic view. That we have today running for you. Another way to view it is a more logical view. So for example, here we have our pre-sales demo environment. Of course, we use Centreon. So we have our older environments that we have. So here we have more logical separations. So for example, you can find environments such as the pre-production, integration, our simulators. We can find our production environments, all the components of our production environments. And again, we can see how the different indicators impact each one of those views that we are going to have, or business views that we have available. And finally, last but not least, we're going to talk about security. Security, of course, in Centreon we can connect to SSO, so single sign-on services, but we can also handle security with ACLs. ACL stands for Access Control List, in which are lists that we're going to define for a product, for a type of user. We're gonna say what kind of host, what kind of information he can access, what kind of view that person can access, what kind of actions can perform, what kind of other data that he can see. So with all of that, we can control with a very fine granularity what each one of those users have access to. And with that, we finally saw a whole view of different services and acronyms that we have in Centreon. So thank you very much for your patience. If you still want to know more, you can go to our YouTube channel. You can find more videos, again, done by me or any of my colleagues. And you can also go to the Watch, which is the community website from Centreon, in which you can ask questions, you can request some development, etc. And you can also book us via the Contact Us page in the Centreon website. You can actually contact us, so we can do a personalized demo just for you. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and see you next time. Goodbye.